Statistics show that at least 70% of people have at least one credit card to their name, and the average American, according to Experian, has a balance of $6,194. And according to the Federal Reserve, as of March of 2019, the total revolving consumer debt credit is right around $1.1 trillion here in the United States. And did I forget to mention that the number one reason for bankruptcies is, well, credit card consumer debt. Now look, this isn't a video to completely ostracize and put away that you shouldn't be using credit cards, because in my opinion, if you are responsible and if you know exactly how you should be using them, then I think you're good to go, because it all comes down to how you manage your money and the psychology of money. Rather, this video is geared more toward of what credit card companies perhaps aren't letting you know, or really what they don't want you to know. So consider this a step-by-step manual that you can refer to help you avoid things like unnecessary late fees and maybe paying higher interest rates than you really should be, because knowledge isn't power, but rather applied knowledge is power. It's kind of like that one episode with Friends, where now that you have this knowledge, credit card companies are going to start to ask themselves this question.
Oh man, they think they are so slick messing with us. But see, they don't know that we know that they know.
Because the first thing that I want you to be aware of is one late payment equals 2 penalties. Now, logically, if you have one late payment, then you should expect one penalty fee, right? Well, with credit cards, however, you can be penalized with 2 surcharges on one delinquency. The odds are that you won't even be aware of them until you've been charged the 2 penalties. Now, 2 of the different ways that you can be penalized for, again, being late on just one payment is you can get hit with a late penalty fee or a rate penalty. Let's go ahead and break down the difference. When it comes to the late penalty fee, with that simply means that you're going to get charged up to right around $39 in addition to whatever your minimum balance is. And that would get included into your next billing cycle whenever that opens for you. And now with the penalty rate, let's say that you've been late for at least 60 days. In addition to you getting that late fee, you're also going to have your penalty rate that's now going to jump to a 29.99% APR, which is annual percentage rate. So let's go ahead and use this in a real world example to see exactly how that breaks down. Let's say your grocery trip was $100. The late payment that's added is a $39 fee. The interest that you paid is $8. But with the increase of the penalty rate, again, 29.99%, you're now going to be paying $29.99 on that grocery trip, which brings up your total balance for that one trip to $176.99. Now, of course, remember what we mentioned earlier. You want to be responsible with how you spend your money, but you also want to keep in mind what penalties come behind you missing your payments in the event that you can't make your payments. Now, being that we're on the subject of late fees and penalties, keep in mind that you can get a lot more removed than you think, because a lot of people have the assumption that just because a credit card company hits you with, let's say, a late fee, or maybe your APR jumps, well, they think that the battle's done and that's it. I have to pay this fee. When in reality, you can actually give them a call and let them know, hey, look, I had a couple things that came up. Would you guys mind excusing me for this month? Now, obviously, you want to make sure that you have your finances in place, and you want to make sure that you've been paying on time prior to that, because you're allowed at least one late fee penalty removal a year, or at least in my experience, that's the most that I've seen. You may be able to get maybe every 6 months, depending on your credit card company. But again, in my experience, and just by looking at different credit card options, you're always able to get at least one every 12 months. Now, a good starting point for negotiating that a lot of us tend to gravitate toward, especially when we're new users to a credit card, is the first thing you want to do is, let's say you've been making your payments on time and you've had your credit card open for at least 12 months. You can go ahead and give your credit card company a call, and again, have these financials in front of you and let them know that you are looking to maybe get a lower interest rate. That would be a good starting point, and that's where most people stop, where they want to get either a lower interest or maybe just get rid of their fees altogether. But there is a couple of things that you can negotiate that maybe you're not aware of. You can call them and change your payment due date. That way your bills aren't piling up all on one day, and this helps you avoid having to, again, acquire some of those late fees because you maybe have to pay something else that maybe carries a bit more of a priority, like rent or something. You can upgrade your account from past due to current. This is going to help boost your credit score immensely. You can remove negative marks off of your credit score, as well as hard inquiries, which again will dent your credit score at least a good 20 to 30 points. And apart from getting late fees waived, you can also ask your credit card company to waive any annual fees that maybe you're getting charged for your card. Now, when it comes to a rate penalty, I want you to know this, and credit card companies are gonna try to keep this from me, but I'm gonna go ahead and spill the beans. If your rate does jump to that 29.99% APR, again, that annual percentage rate, then you should know that they are only allowed to keep it there for 6 months. That's right, it can only last 6 months as that penalty rate, meaning according to the Card Act, they have to bring your interest rate back down to its original contract rate if you've been making your payments on time for at least 6 months and you've been showing a good standing with your credit card issuer. This is something that you want to pay very close attention to, because if right now you are in that penalty rate phase where, let's say, you've been paying on time for 5 months, you're going on to month 6. If on month 7, get this, if on month 7 it's still at that penalty rate, you most definitely want to give your credit card company a call and let them know, hey, look, according to the Card Act of 2009, I need this to go back to my original contract interest rate that I signed when I first registered for this credit card. And they, by law, have to bring it back down. Again, if you've been in good standing and if you've been paying on time for the last 6 months, they have to, by law, put it back down to that original interest rate. Now, part of that, and I'm going to include this, let's say part 3.5, is credit card companies are slick. Fixed rates aren't necessarily fixed rates. As you can see here, they can jump up at any time. And the most dangerous part about that is, let's say if you've been falling behind on one credit card, well, credit card companies and the bureaus, they speak to each other. So your interest rate can jump on your other credit cards if you're not careful. So that's one thing, that's another thing that you want to keep in mind, that if, let's say, you have one credit card company that raises your interest rate a couple of points because, again, you're in that penalty phase, well, keep in mind that your other credit cards can also reflect that as well. This is why it's a myth whenever a credit card company says that interest rates are fixed. They're not fixed. They're fixed as long as you're either A, within a, let's say, a probationary period where, let's say, it's your first year on the credit card and it's, let's say, a 0 APR or a 2% APR, whatever they assign you, or if you've been paying on time. Again, if you haven't been paying on time or if you've been falling behind, and if you have more than one credit card, like the average American has at least maybe 3 credit cards, then that's one thing that you really should keep a close eye on going forward. Now, here's a secret that's not really a secret, because I'm sure you've heard this somewhere before, and that's minimum payments aren't for you. Minimum payments are for the credit card companies. You see, the longer a credit card company can keep you paying the minimum payments that they give you, the longer they can keep you on their books collecting interest off of you. You see, your minimum payments are usually just enough to cover interest and keep you in debt while meeting your bill's due date. This is because credit card company issuers, well, they want you to stay in debt with them. You see, in the past, credit card companies had a debt minimum payment set at right around 5%, was really the average amongst all credit cards. But then they started noticing that a lot of people were paying off their debts a lot faster and they weren't collecting as much interest on them. So here's what they did. They set it down to right around 2%. So they turned that knob all the way down to 2%, which made people feel like, I have a lower monthly payment or minimum monthly payment. So now I feel a little bit more comfortable with my payments. But here's what that did on the back end. On the back end, that prolonged the amount of time that you needed in order to pay back the credit card company, which meant that they're now collecting double the interest that they would at 5% because they're now at 2%, which is actually a little bit more than half, because it would really be at 2.5%. Let's go ahead and break that down so you can see exactly how that shapes out. Let's say you had a credit card balance of $3,000 and your interest rate on it was 18%. At the 18%, let's say the minimum payment was right at the 2%, which is, again, the average amongst all credit cards. That means that your minimum payment would be $60, which would put you at $7,396.54 in interest. And get this, your total time to pay off the debt would be right around 370 months. And now lastly, you know that 45-day notice that you get whenever your APR is about to go up? Well, yeah, that can be a little misleading because that doesn't necessarily mean that your rate's gonna go up in 45 days. You see, there were protections that needed to be put into place to help consumers. So again, that Credit Card Act of 2009 did just that, which let these credit card companies know that you have to give a 45-day notice whenever the APR is going to be raised on a consumer or on a client. What that means is you have 45 days before you have to pay the extra interest accrued on a higher rate, but you actually start accruing interest on the new higher rate or on any new purchases 14 days after the notice was mailed. Now, is this legal for them to do this? Yes, but is this a sneaky way of them operating and doing business? Absolutely. So that's exactly why I wanted to empower you with this information so that you know exactly what to look out for when you are not only applying for a credit card, but when you're dealing with credit card companies. Because again, I have nothing against having multiple credit cards, especially if you're being responsible with your finances, because you have so many rewards, especially if you're paying your balance off really in full every month. Then you don't even have to worry about this because you're really getting paid zero, or really you're paying zero interest, and you're just enjoying all of the benefits from travel to flights to, let's say, if you're pumping gas, all the points and all the rewards, which again, we can maybe break that down in a different video for the type of credit cards that have the best rewards. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this content today, it would mean a lot if you hit that like button down below. Feel free to share it with any of your friends that need to see this information. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, join the official community, tap that notification bell so you can be notified every time we have content like this dropping each and every single week. And don't forget to check out the cool stuff down below in the description. And we are also posting, every time we're not posting on here, we are posting on our Inside with Irv show, which is our podcast styled channel. Once again, my name is Irvin Pena, also known as Irv Official. Until next time, everyone, we'll see ya.